Right now, your hands might be cold. Your body is doing something about it. It's not thinking. It's not choosing. It's reacting the same way it would have reacted 40,000 years ago on a frozen plain in Siberia. But the real answer to why is far stranger than temperature. Your body never got the memo that the ice age ended. Somewhere inside you, a set of instructions is still running. Instructions written by cold, by scarcity, by darkness that lasted half the year. You inherited them. You didn't ask for them. And most of the time, you don't even notice they're there. Think about the last time you craved something sweet and fatty. A donut, a bar of chocolate, something dense with calories. You didn't crave a salad. Why? Dr. Sarah Leonard, a nutritional anthropologist who has spent years studying ancestral diets, found something that reframes this completely. For most of human history, calorie-dense food was rare. Fat and sugar meant survival. A body that craved them and stored them efficiently was a body that lived through winter. A body that didn't crave them starved. So evolution didn't build you to crave kale. It built you to crave anything that might get you through a famine that, statistically, was always coming. There is no famine coming for you tonight. But your brain doesn't know that. It's still running Ice Age software on a modern-day body. Consider your instinct to store fat around your midsection the moment your calorie intake goes up, even slightly. That's not a flaw. That's a feature refined over hundreds of thousands of years of cold seasons and lean years. Populations that lived through repeated famine cycles evolved what researchers call the Thrifty gene hypothesis, first proposed by geneticist James Neal in 1962. The idea is simple. Bodies that stored energy efficiently during feast periods survived the following famine. Bodies that burned through everything immediately did not pass on their genes. You are the descendant of the efficient ones. Every single time, your body still assumes famine is coming, even in a world where the nearest famine is a grocery store fully stocked 24 hours a day, every day of the year. Now think about your fear of running out of things. Toilet paper during a shortage, your phone battery at 9%, money at the end of the month, even when you technically have enough. That anxious, tightening feeling. That's not irrational. That's your ancestors' winter, replaying itself in a body that doesn't know the difference between a low battery and a low food store. Here's where it gets stranger. Your sleep cycle wasn't designed for 8 consecutive hours in a dark, climate-controlled room. Historian A. Roger Akirch spent years studying pre-industrial sleep patterns and found something the modern world completely erased. Before artificial light existed, humans across cultures slept in 2 distinct phases. First sleep, then an hour or 2 of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night, then second sleep. This was normal. This was expected. People used that waking window to think, to talk quietly, sometimes to have sex, sometimes to just lie in the dark and exist. Then gas lighting arrived. Then electric lighting. And the 2-phase sleep pattern vanished within a couple of generations. But your biology didn't get the update. That's why so many people wake up at 3 in the morning for no reason, panic that something is wrong with them, and lie there anxious about insomnia. Nothing is wrong. You're not broken. You're running an ancient program in a world that deleted the instructions for how to use it. Your body still thinks the sun controls everything, because for nearly the entire span of human existence, it did. Now think about the cold itself. Why do you get goosebumps when you're chilled, or frightened, or even moved by music? That reaction is called piloerection, and it's controlled by tiny muscles at the base of every hair follicle. In a body covered with thick fur, those muscles would raise the hair, trap a layer of air, and insulate against the cold. It worked. It still works for animals that still have the fur to make it useful. You don't have the fur anymore. Humans lost most of their body hair somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, likely to help release heat while running long distances across hot savanna. But the goosebump reflex stayed. It's still firing. It's pixelating nothing. It's protecting a body that no longer needs that particular kind of protection, using a mechanism built for an animal you no longer are. Isn't it strange that a piece of your body is still preparing for a coat of fur that vanished a million years ago? Now think about your temper. The sudden flash of anger when someone cuts you off in traffic. The tightness in your chest when a stranger seems threatening for no clear reason. Walter Cannon, the physiologist who coined the term fight or flight in 1915, described a cascade that floods your body with adrenaline and cortisol the instant your brain perceives danger. Heart rate spikes, pupils dilate. Blood moves away from digestion and toward your limbs. Every part of that response is optimized for one specific ancient scenario. A predator or a rival human is about to physically attack you, and you need to run or fight in the next few seconds. A rude email is not that. A red light is not that. An awkward text from your boss is not that. But your body cannot tell the difference. It responds to psychological threats exactly the same way it would respond to a leopard. That's why modern anxiety can feel so physically real, so undeniably urgent, even when nothing dangerous is actually happening. The threat detection system was built for a world with far fewer, but far more lethal dangers. Now it fires constantly for threats that are mostly imagined, symbolic, or social. You are walking around with an Ice Age alarm system wired into a body that lives in an office. Here's something you've probably felt but never named. That specific unease when you're in a room full of strangers and no one is talking to you. Or the sting of being left out of a group chat. Evolutionary psychologists, including Robin Dunbar, who spent decades researching the size and structure of human social groups, found that humans evolved to live in bands of roughly 150 people. Everyone in that group knew everyone else. Exclusion from the group didn't just hurt your feelings. It could mean death, no protection, no shared food, no one to help you when you got sick. So your brain built a system to make social exclusion feel unbearable. It had to, or you wouldn't take it seriously enough to fix it. Now you scroll past hundreds of curated, happy lives every single day. Your ancient exclusion detection system, built for a tribe of 150 people you actually knew, is now running on a feed of thousands of strangers you will never meet. It cannot process the difference. It just registers everyone is having fun without you. Threat, alarm. H. That ache in your chest when you see a party you weren't invited to isn't weakness. It's a system doing exactly what it was built to do, just in an environment it was never built for. Think about your posture right now. Are your shoulders slightly hunched? Is your neck curved forward? Some researchers, including physical therapists studying what's now casually called text neck, point out that the forward head position most people hold for hours a day mirrors a defensive posture. The same posture your ancestors used to protect their throat and vital organs from an attacker or predator. Your body doesn't know you're looking at a phone. It just registers a prolonged, tense, forward curled stance, and slowly, it starts to interpret that as your new normal defensive state. Your spine is adapting to a threat that was never there. There's a reason silence unsettles some people, and a reason background noise feels comforting. For nearly all of human history, silence in the wild often meant one specific thing. The birds stopped singing because a predator was near. Alertness in silence is ancient. It's why some people feel oddly on edge in a perfectly quiet room, and instantly relax the moment there's a low hum of traffic, conversation, or music in the background. Your nervous system is still listening for birds that stopped singing. Now think about fever. When you get sick, your body raises its own internal temperature, sometimes to the point of shivering and misery. It feels like malfunction. It's the opposite. Elevated body temperature makes it harder for many pathogens to replicate, and it speeds up your immune response. Your body is intentionally making itself a worse host for the infection. That fever isn't your body failing. It's your body running a defense strategy that predates written history. A strategy so effective it survived millions of years of trial and error against threats you'll never see under a microscope. Ancient humans didn't understand germs. Their bodies didn't need them to. Here's the twist underneath everything you've just heard. None of these systems are broken. Not the fat storage, not the fear, not the loneliness, not the goosebumps on a body with no fur left to raise. Every single one of them worked, perfectly, for the environment they were built in. The problem isn't your biology. The problem is that the world changed in a few thousand years, and your body simply hasn't had time to catch up. Evolution doesn't move on a human timescale. It moves across hundreds of thousands of years, one small advantage at a time. You are living in the fastest, changing environment your species has ever experienced, wearing a body designed for an environment that mostly no longer exists. That's not a flaw in you. That's just the math of evolution running behind the math of technology. So the next time you feel a craving you can't explain, a flash of anger over something small, an ache of loneliness that seems disproportionate to the moment, or you wake up at 3 a.m. for no reason at all, remember what's actually happening. You're not malfunctioning. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're an Ice Age animal, living in a climate-controlled room, running software that was never updated, because the tundra it was built for disappeared before the code ever had a chance to catch up. Think about the sound of a baby crying in another room. Even if it's not your baby. Even if you're not a parent at all. Something in your chest tightens. Your attention snaps toward it instantly, faster than it would snap toward almost any other sound. Researchers who study auditory attention have found that the human ear is tuned with unusual sensitivity to the specific frequency range of an infant's cry. That tuning wasn't optional. In a small band of humans on an open plain, a crying infant was everyone's emergency. Predators listened for weakness. A tribe that ignored a crying child, even briefly, could lose it. So evolution didn't leave that response up to personal interest. It hardwired it into the ear itself. You don't choose to be affected by that sound. You never did. Now think about your relationship with dirt, or more specifically, your discomfort with it. Watch a toddler and you'll notice disgust isn't innate at first. It has to develop. But it develops fast and predictably around the same age in every culture on Earth. Psychologist Paul Rozin spent decades studying disgust and found that it clusters tightly around a specific set of triggers: rotting food, bodily waste, sores, spoiled meat, the smell of decay. None of that is random. Every one of those triggers historically carried disease. A child too young to reason about germ theory still needed to avoid them. So nature built revulsion instead of reasoning. A gag reflex instead of a lecture. You still feel that gag reflex today, walking past a dumpster on a hot day, even though you know exactly what garbage is and exactly why it smells that way. Knowing doesn't turn it off. It was never built to be turned off by knowing. Here's one you've felt without ever naming it. The particular comfort of a fire. Not a furnace, not a radiator, an actual, visible flame. Anthropologists studying the control of fire, a turning point that some estimates place at nearly 1 million years ago, argue that fire changed more than just human diet and safety. It changed human evenings. For the first time, humans had light after dark, a reason to stay gathered instead of separating into shelters. A flickering focal point around which conversation, storytelling, and social bonding happened for hours every single night for hundreds of thousands of years in a row. That's a long time to build a habit into a species. So when you sit around a campfire today, or even just a few candles on a table, something in you settles. Conversation slows down. People tell longer stories. Nobody quite knows why a circle of flickering light makes strangers feel closer, but your ancestors didn't need to know why either. They just knew it worked, night after night, for longer than written language has existed. Now consider your reaction to heights. Not the reasoned, thoughtful concern about heights. The instant lurch in your stomach when you look over a ledge, before you've had a single conscious thought about falling. That reflex shows up in infants as young as crawling age, long before any child could possibly understand gravity or consequence. The classic visual cliff experiments, first run by psychologists Eleanor Gibson and Richard Walk in 1960, placed babies on a surface with the illusion of a sudden drop-off, and found that most infants refused to crawl across it, even when their own mothers stood on the other side calling them forward. No one taught those babies to be afraid. Something older than teaching was already running. A fall from height was one of the most reliable ways to die throughout most of human history, whether from a tree, a cliff, or unstable terrain. So your body doesn't wait for you to calculate the danger. It reacts before your thinking mind even finishes processing what your eyes just saw. You feel that same lurch today on a glass observation deck, 40 floors above a perfectly solid city, engineered by people who understood physics far better than any hunter, gatherer ever did. Your rational mind knows the glass will hold. The rest of you has never heard of engineering. Think about salt. Crave it after a workout, crave it on fries, crave it almost universally across every human culture on Earth, in a way sugar cravings don't quite match. For most of human evolutionary history, salt wasn't abundant. It had to be found, traded, sometimes traveled great distances to reach inland populations. But salt is not optional for the human body. It regulates fluid balance, nerve function, muscle contraction. A body that ran low on it could die from something as simple as sustained heavy sweating with nothing to replace what was lost. So evolution built a craving system tuned to a resource that used to be scarce and is now sitting in a shaker on every table in the world. That craving didn't get the memo that scarcity ended. It just kept running, full volume, forever. Now think about how territorial you feel over your favorite seat, your usual parking spot, your specific side of the bed. Small stuff on the surface. But researchers studying spatial behavior across primates and early humans point out that consistent, defended territory historically meant something serious: known resources. known danger zones, known escape routes. A predictable territory kept you alive longer than an unfamiliar one. So familiarity itself became comforting, almost automatically, and unfamiliar space became quietly unsettling, even when there's no logical reason for either feeling in a modern living room. That's why a stranger sitting in your chair can produce a flicker of irritation completely out of proportion to the actual event. Nothing was stolen. Nothing was damaged, but some old part of you registered a territorial breach anyway, the same way it would have registered a rival band moving too close to a water source. Think, too, about the shorter days of winter and the particular heaviness some people feel as autumn deepens, a low mood that lifts again in spring almost on schedule. Seasonal affective patterns have been studied extensively, and while modern researchers debate the exact mechanisms, one thing is consistent across findings. Light exposure directly affects mood, regulating chemistry in the brain in ways that trace back to a much older biological rhythm. For most of human history, shortening daylight meant shrinking food supply, harsher conditions, and a real, physical reason for the body to slow down, conserve energy, and turn inward. Your ancestors' winter wasn't just cold. It was a season of genuine scarcity and real danger, and their bodies adapted by lowering activity and mood to match it, the same way a hibernating animal conserves energy through a lean season. You don't hibernate. You still commute, work, and scroll through a fully lit apartment every winter night. But some quieter version of that ancient slowdown is still running underneath you, whether or not the modern calendar has any use for it. There's one more reaction worth naming, one that shows up almost every time you meet someone new. The instant, wordless read you take of a stranger's face before you've exchanged a single sentence. Friendly or hostile, safe or unsafe, trustworthy or not. Psychologists studying facial perception have found that people form these snap judgments in a fraction of a second, often under 200 milliseconds, long before conscious reasoning has time to weigh in. For most of human history, meeting an unfamiliar person could genuinely mean life or death. There was no background check, no reputation you could look up. The only data available was a face, a posture, a tone of voice, and a body that had learned, over countless generations, to read all three almost instantly. That snap judgment is often wrong today. Modern strangers are rarely a genuine threat. But the mechanism doesn't check accuracy before it fires. It just fires the same way it always has, because for nearly all of human history, hesitating to judge a stranger was far more dangerous than judging one incorrectly. Here's the deepest twist in all of this. Every one of these reactions, the fat cravings, the exclusion ache, the fear of heights, the comfort of firelight, the tightening at a stranger's cry, exists because it once solved a real and immediate problem. None of it was random. None of it was a mistake. It was the accumulated, hard-won intelligence of a species that had no written records, no science, no way to pass down knowledge, except through bodies that learned to react correctly, generation after generation, or didn't survive long enough to pass anything down at all. You are not carrying flaws. You are carrying inherited solutions to problems that mostly don't exist anymore. The tragedy, if there is one, isn't that your body is broken. It's that the world moved faster than biology ever could. Agriculture is roughly 10,000 years old. Industrial society is a few hundred years old. The smartphone in your pocket is younger than most of the adults reading this. Against an evolutionary backdrop of hundreds of thousands of years, all of that change happened in the time it takes to blink. Your body hasn't had a single generation to adjust to any of it. So the next time you feel a craving you can't explain, a flash of anger over something small, an ache of loneliness that seems disproportionate to the moment, the comfort of a candle flame you can't quite explain, or you wake up at 3 in the morning for no reason at all, remember what's actually happening. You're not malfunctioning. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're an Ice Age animal, living in a climate-controlled room, running software that was never updated, because the tundra it was built for disappeared before the code ever had a chance to catch up. Right now, your hands might be cold, and your body is going to do something about it, the same way it did 40,000 years ago. Only this time, you finally know why.